from Sarasota County for its operations and management. And Bill is going to touch on that in just a little bit. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, you guys up to 41 million, I was close to that.
It's, give or take. It's over 40 million. All right, so here was the vision back in 2013. And here's a photo that I took 2 months before the World Rowing Championships were to take place. Only the finish tower was completed for the World Rowing Championships. No boathouse, no grandstands, no other amenities, jumbotron, amphitheater, etc., etc. As a consequence, bleachers had to be erected, rented bleachers were erected for the World Rowing Championships. Tents were rented for the rowers and other visitors. And my understanding is this was at public expense. And $2.5 million, the last $2.5 million the state gave in 2017 helped to defray the costs of all the rentals to prepare for the event. So a little bit different than the vision, right? You've got one building on this whole beach that was constructed to hold buildings. And this was taken 2 days ago. So nothing really has changed. Finished tower off there on the left, and essentially it's just a bare beachhead. Okay, so questions. Was a formal commitment ever signed by all partners to complete all phases of rowing park construction for the World Rowing Championships? I've never been able to get an answer to that question. If not, because you have a massive undertaking, a huge commitment, how could we enter into such a commitment? Looming, time-bound, this is going to take place 2017, September of 2017. How could the county and the Florida legislature undertake a multi-million-dollar project without a binding agreement from the private partners? Now, in the last couple of months, the Florida House Speaker has started to look into at least one aspect of this, how the state money was spent. And I think they should be encouraged to just look even more broadly, because we have a wonderful vision here that really hasn't yet been realized, okay? And if it's going to be completed, somebody's going to pay for it. So Bill and I would also like to know, will the boathouse and the grandstands be built with private funding? Now I'm going to turn things over to Bill.
Well, again, as Pat says, she's endeavored mightily to get information, and she's received some, but not an exhaustive amount of information on these questions that still loom. I'd like to talk a little bit about the clawback provision. The state grant, it's a little unclear whether it's only the $1.5 million grant, but where's your slide for this is again from the Herald Tribune that says that the county was a little concerned about the fact of getting the state grant with a clawback provision, and that is that the park must generate $25 million in state sales taxes between July of 2013 and December 30th of 2018, and if that requirement is not met, the county must pay back the $5 million. So assume a 7% sales tax, and the other thing was that the money on which that sales tax was paid had to come from out of area people. It could not come from local people, is our understanding of what we've read. So to get $25 million over 5 years in sales tax at 7%, you can imagine that the money the park had to generate over $300 million of revenue coming in, and that's at 7% sales tax to generate $25 million. So our question has the park met this requirement, and will the county have to give back the $5 million? Will that be clawed back from the state? And I don't think none of us knows. Maybe you will enlighten us on that. The other thing was the boathouse, which has been mentioned. Yeah, go back one slide there. In all of the literature that SANCA and the county put out, it's mentioned quite a few times that the $10 million boathouse was the key to economic sustainability for the rowing park over time, because the boathouse is not just, when the word boathouse in our minds, it's like, okay, it's to house the boats, but no, it was to be also a venue for events. In other words, organizations, groups could hire the space in the boathouse for dinners and all sorts of those kinds of things. And that the revenues generated by the boathouse would, in essence, be the key to sustaining the operations of the park. Yeah, and this is again from the Herald Tribune. You can read that the boathouse will be the center of this balancing act, key not just to making money, but providing a literal home for the community groups, collegiate teams, and sports officials who want to use the park. Now, Sarasota County has an agreement with SANCA. They've had that all along to actually manage the Nathan Benderson Park. I mean, we call it the rowing park, but it is a county park, 600 plus or minus acres. And the amount of money the county has been giving to SANCA to do this is about $800,000 plus or minus. And that goes through fiscal 2018, which is October 1st, 2018. That will be over, right? Yeah. So, given that there was supposed to be a boathouse to assure financial stability and sustainability, we've now are coming close to the end of the county's largesse for this, the 800,000. I guess we go to the next one. And this is, SANCA has recently, you all have been to the county to submit proposed budgets to request more money from the county. Currently, as you can see here, the total is the $843,000. SANCA is requesting, now that's the end. That amount, according to all the existing agreements, as we understand it, ends on October the 1st this year. The county will have met its commitment on that. There was not contemplated, as far as I knew, monies beyond that, because all the presentations and everything had said that after that point the rowing park would be on its own and able to manage itself financially and all the rest of it, with all the facilities they would have and continuing events. But they are coming in asking for $1,173,000 for next year, and after that you see $1,205,000, I guess for those several years after that. So that's still hanging as a question in our minds that we're hoping we'll all get some answers tonight as to what that's all about. So, just as citizens, taxpayers, who are not disputing or debating the worthwhile nature of having a rowing park, having wonderful events. The World Rowing Championships is certainly a feather in our caps. I think the community came through very well on that. It may have been temporary facilities and porta potties and everything that had to be done, but the event was held and it got good reviews from the participants, at least as reported in all the press. So the questions that remain are, how did we get to this point and what are the agreements and things so that we taxpayers are not burdened by this beyond normal county taxes to operate various things? Will the boathouse and grandstands be built with private funding as promised? And these were promises made during all of the initial stuff, that you pay for this infrastructure and the private sector is going to raise the 22 million. It wasn't our understanding that we taxpayers from a state point of view would be asked to do it, never mind the county, that private sector would do it. If in 2018 we still don't have facilities, grandstands, boathouses, whatever, and SANCA has to rent, or whoever, all of these things as they did for the World Rowing Championships, what budget is that coming out of? Because the county's agreement for what they're paying, specifically as I understand from reading one of them, excluded paying for events. So I think it was foreseen that the private sector would be responsible for that. And the final question, of course, is when will the rowing park become a self-sustaining entity, and we taxpayers can just go enjoy it without really thinking they're going to come ask us for a whole pile more money. So I'm going to turn it back to Pat, and you guys, Rick and Stephen, can get involved and we can go back over some of these questions and let you all enlighten us and the room. And I'll give you all this microphone.